Hi everyone, in this video I'll be showing you how to post data and as well fetch data from MySQL database by using Spring Boot and Postman. So I'll be showing you both the fetches, fetch all the data present in a table in a database, as well fetch data by using a ID. So let's get started.
You need to just go to your browser and you need to search for Spring Initializer. You'll be getting this first link over here, Spring Initializer. Just click it. And here you need to add the dependencies as well as the name of your project and the versions. So I will go with Gradle Groovy, that is fine. Language is Java, and let me just now change the name as Spring Pro, something like that. You can just give it to everywhere. Yeah, you can just paste it and you can just change it here as well. Yeah, this is totally up to your choice, and jar is fine and Java 17 works for me. So these are fine now. So we will be using some dependencies over here. So just click on add dependency. And first thing we need to search for Spring Web. Just add it, Spring Web. And I will click again add dependency. And next one is going to be the Spring Data JPA. So it's going to be Spring Data JPA. Here we will be having. And I will add the MySQL driver as well, MySQL driver. And final one is going to be Lombok. The reason why I'm adding Lombok is because we don't want to manually create the getters and setters or the constructors. We can just use the annotations present inside Lombok. So these are basically the 4 dependencies that I'm adding. So this is the entire stuff. All right. So once you are done creating all these, you need to just click on generate. So it will be getting downloaded in a form of a zip file. So here you can see, right, Spring Pro. So now let me just go to my downloads folder. So here you can see it is in a form of a WinRAR zip file. So just right click it and just click on extract files and just click on OK. So it will be getting extracted over here itself. Yeah, so here you can see this is the file. We'll be having source and main.test. So this is the .java file over here. Yeah. So this is the file. So now let me just open this particular folder as a project in IntelliJ. So for that, just go to IntelliJ IDEA, and after opening IntelliJ IDEA, you need to go to File, I need to go to Open, and you need to go to Downloads, and here we will be having the Spring Pro, the Spring project. Okay, just click on that and click on OK, and just click on this window. So at first it will take some time to load, so just be patient. I think it will take some time for indexing as well as the Gradle to build. So just be patient at first. So here you can see it will be showing you updating index and importing Gradle. So Gradle build. So these 2 processes are really important, and you need to wait for some time until both the processes are getting completed. So here you can see now all the processes have been now completed and there is no loading or anything like that. So first thing what we need to do is we will be just going to my main Java, and here you can see this is my main application over here. So now we will be making some changes in application.properties. So for that, where you need to go is you need to go to resources, and here you will be having application.properties. Just double click it, and here you will be having the application.properties. So first we will be adding our local URL of our MySQL database. So it's going to be spring dot data source dot URL equal to jdbc colon MySQL colon / localhost colon 3306 / and next you need to specify your database name that is going to be present in your MySQL workbench. So I will just name it as new DB, and you need to specify colon 3306 because this is not like the random port number. This is the port number where MySQL workbench is running. So be specific to that. So once you're added your database, you need to create this particular database in MySQL workbench. Otherwise, it will throw you an error. So I will just go to my MySQL workbench and create this particular database new DB. And if I just now refresh it over here, I'll be having the database created. So this is fine. And next thing we need to specify the username and password of your MySQL database. So let me just now copy this thing. So it's going to be spring.datassource.username. I need to specify the username, which is root for me. This may vary from person to person. And again, spring.datasource.password. So you need to specify your password. Let me specify mine. So this is fine. These are some of the credentials that we need to give over here. So after this, we will be using some connections or properties for our connection. So it's going to be spring.jpa.show hyphen SQL equal to true. So this command is basically like used to display the SQL command in our console. So I told you like we will be creating a table at the end. So the creation of that particular table and its SQL command will be displayed at the console. So that's the reason why we are adding this particular property. And next thing are going to be some of the default properties. Okay, it's going to be spring dot jpa dot generate and hyphen ddl equal to true. Next one is going to be spring dot jpa dot hibernate dot ddl dot auto equal to update. And final thing, let me just now copy this and paste it. Dot properties dot hibernate dot dialect equal to org dot, you'll be having hibernate dot dialect dot MySql8 dialect. Okay, so here you have to be careful. M is capital, Y is small, SQL or caps, 8, D is capital, and dialect.
So once you're done adding all the values in application.properties, you need to come to the folder where you have your main Spring application. Okay, so by default the name would be com dot, it will be your project name. Okay, so you need to just right click over here and we will be adding like 4 folders or directory. So the names of the folders is going to be entity, repository, controller, and service. Okay, so it will sound confusing. I will just create them first. So it's going to be new, and here we will be having an option called as package over here. Just click it. So first I will be creating the entity folder. Okay, just capital E, type entity, just hit enter. Okay, so after that we'll be getting this entity. So don't make any changes. Okay, don't rewrite that particular thing. Okay, so again after right clicking I will be going with package. So what I meant was here we'll be having a dot. Okay, so don't just remove that. And next thing is going to be the repository. Yeah, and next one is going to be controller and the service. It's going to be the service. So it's not necessary to have like this folder structure, but it's always good to implement. So it's more easy to read your code. In companies generally they will have this way. So it's always better to practice having separate folders for each purpose of your file. So the final one is going to be our controller. So it's going to be controller. Yeah. So first we will be starting with the entity. So entity basically will have the Java file in which we will specify our table as well as its columns and its data members. Okay. So just click on entity, right click, new. You will be having this Java class. Click that. I will name the class name as student because I'm just going to like input student details as a demo purpose. Enter this class name. You can enter whatever you want. After that, just click on class and hit enter. So here we will be having the student class created for us. So through this class, we will be able to add properties and column names for our table that we are going to create in our MySQL. Okay. So just imagine this as a class representation of a table. Okay. Basically that's it. So first let me add the column names. Okay. After that I will go and annotating the particular main class. So it's going to be, I will have here 3 columns, which is ID, mark, and name. So it's going to be private, have it as int ID. So this is going to be like the primary key, the unique key. Yeah. So for representing it as a primary key, we will be having the ID annotation. Okay, ID, just hit enter. And I will also add a column name. Okay, so we can specify the column name manually as well by using the column annotation. Like if you want the default ID to be the column name, you can also have that. I will just have this. So just open bracket, have name, and I will just give it as ID. That's it. And for this ID to be auto incremented or auto generated value, we can just have the generated value function. Okay, yeah. So these are some of the standard stuff that everyone uses for a particular unique ID in the column. So next one is going to be the mark and name. So it's going to be private. It's going to be of type int, and it's mark. Yeah, and same thing, column. It's going to be the loan annotation column, and name is going to be students mark, like that. And the final one is going to be the name, private This is of type string with capital S, and I will put name, and it will also have the column annotation. Okay, column, I will have the name equal to, I will just go with the standard name, that's it. Yeah, no worries, this is now fine. So these are some of the columns that we'll be having in our table. So after doing all this, we need to also add some main annotations to our student class. Okay, so the first annotation is the entity. So entity is like we will be referencing Spring Boot that this particular class corresponds to that particular table present in MySQL DB. Okay, so that's what the entity annotation does. It's important to have that. And next we will be using the data annotation. This is present inside Lombok. So whenever we are creating a class, we need to have all those getters, setters, as well as so many things are there. But by using this data annotation, this will automatically create all the getters and setters for each and every data member for our class. So always better to use Lombok and this data annotation. So after this, we will be also having the table. Okay, so this table annotation exactly similar to column annotation, by through which we will be referencing our table name. So this particular name that we will be specifying over here is going to be the table name in our MySQL DB. So I will just have a name it as, I will go with student underscore DB, something like that. Yeah, so this is now fine. So after this, we can also add the constructors. So it's going to be capital N, I guess. Yeah, the no org constructor. So same thing, we also need to create a constructor and initialize the values. So we need to have an empty constructor as well as a constructor with the data members value. So these are some of the standard stuff. So by using these annotations, we can like bypass those things as they are automatically done with the help of these annotations. So it's going to be all logs constructor. Okay, yeah, some of the standard things. So now we are good with our entity class. So after this, we will be creating a repository interface. So it is not a class, it is an interface. So which is also used to basically like reference to this particular entity. So it is like this. Okay, every entity of a table in Spring Boot will have a repository of its own, through which we will be able to execute queries and other stuff. Okay, so just imagine it as that way. So just come to your repository folder. Now we are done with our student.java. I will just close it. Okay, just close this as well. Yeah, and I'll just come to repository, right click, new. It's going to be of Java class, but it's going to be of type repository. Okay, I will just name it as student repo. Okay, it's also always good to have in camel case. Just hit enter, and if you want to name this as student entity, you can also do that. Okay, just name it as student entity. It's your total choice. It will be more like readable and understandable if you have that way. In case of like you're having more number of files, since I'm having only one file, I will just name it as student. Okay, so that is good. So now let me come to my repository, and here you can see, right, this is an interface. Okay, this is not a class. So student repo, first thing we need to have extends. Okay, this is a keyword extends, and after this we need to add the JPA repository, which is like an inbuilt class of Spring Boot. So it's going to be JPA capital J. Okay, capital J. We will be having the JPA repository over here. Just hit enter. So through this way we will be able to perform all the CRUD operations to our database or entity. So just expand this. Okay, yeah, we will be having this greater than lesser than symbol, and within that we need to specify our class name of our entity. So my class name over here is student. Okay, so you need to specify that first over here. So it's going to be student. You will be having here, yeah, student, here it is. Okay, you need to specify the class name, and this will get automatically imported, and a comma, and here we need to specify the data type of the primary key of our student class. So student class is over here, and the data type of our primary key is of type integer. Okay, so you need to specify the data type of the primary key. So it's going to be obviously integers in 99 of the cases. Okay, 99% of cases. So just specify the data type of the primary key, it is integer. Okay, so that's it. Now we are done with our repository, and entity is also done, repository is done. So next thing we have only service and controller. So what service basically does is that it allows us to perform the post, save, put, fetch, all the operations. Okay, so I'll just go to service, right click it, and new, and this time it's going to be a plain Java class, not any interface or something. So I will just type it as student service. Always good to use camel case. Okay, use camel case everywhere. Okay, and I will just now hit enter. So we'll be getting the service. I will close the repository, and in the service we will be able to access the entity through the repository variable. Okay, to the repository object. We can't access an entity directly. Okay, so only with the help of the repo, we will be able to access the objects or data members or the functions that are present inside our entity student. I hope that made sense. So in the service, the first important thing is we need to annotate the service. Okay, so it's going to be at service annotation to reference it as a service class. So after this, we will be creating our reference variable or object of our repository. So as I told you earlier, we will be only able to access the student class details through the repository object. Okay, with this help of the object of student repo. So I will create that. Okay, so it's going to be private. The name is student repo. Yeah, so I will name it as the small s. Okay, student repo. Yeah, this is a naming convention. Okay, whenever you are creating a variable, the first thing should be the class name itself, and after that the variable name should be the smaller letter of that particular class name itself. So it's like a common naming convention used. So we will be able to access only the values present in our main student class with the help of this variable or object. Okay, also you need to annotate with this auto void. Okay, yeah. So this is used for basically like dependency injection or referencing our repository variable over here. So you need to use this auto void, otherwise you will be getting an error. Okay, so now we are done. So next thing, we will be creating a function for saving or posting the data. Okay, because that is our main aim in this video. Okay, we need to post and save data in the database. So for that, we will be creating a function. So it's going to be public. You need to create it as public. Okay, because we will be using this function in our controller. Okay, controller will be having a Java class, and we will be using that particular function over there. So it's always good to have our function as public. And the return type of this particular function is going to be of student. Okay, student means this particular class. Okay, this main entity class. So it's going to be of type student. And next is the name of our function. I will have it as save details. You can name it as anything you want. And the function is going to have only one parameter. That parameter is going to be an object of the class student. So what I meant by object is that it's going to be like these things: ID, mark, and name. So these are like data members, and this particular parameter will have all these values as an object inside it. So it's going to be student. Yeah, student. I will go with the same naming convention, like with a small s after that. Yeah, student. So after this, we will be returning it. Okay, because since we have used student over here, we have to return it. We'll be using the repo name. As I told you, for accessing the values or saving anything, we'll be using the repo object or variable. So it's going to be return student repo dot, and here we'll be having so many functions. Okay, so in that we'll be using the save. So this basically saves our data in our table. As simple as that, save, and inside that we will to pass our object. Okay, student, this variable. Okay, this variable over here. So this student will have all the details like ID, mark, and name in our object form, and we are just saving it in the table. Simple. So now we are done with our entity, and the final thing that is left is our controller. So the main purpose of controller is defining the path and the operation. So here you can see, right, let me go to my Postman. So here you can see that we will be having so many operations: post, put, fetch, and delete. There are so many operations, and we will be also having this particular path or the route. Okay, add student. For post we will be having, for put we will be having put, delete we will be having /delete. So we will specify all these details in the controller. So just right click controller, new, we will be having the Java class, select it. I will just name it as, what is a student controller? Yeah, simple controller, like that, class. Okay, everything is class except repository. Okay, and we'll be getting the student controller over here, and we will begin by annotating the controller class with rest controller. Okay, so this is to specify that this is a controller class. So after that, we will be creating a service variable. Okay, so here in service, okay, in service we had an object of student repo. Exactly similar to that, in our controller we will be having an object of the service class. Okay, so service class name is student service. Okay, so I will just go to my controller. So it's going to be private student, I think it's capital S, yeah, student. We'll be having the student service. Okay, so we'll be creating a variable of our service. Okay, student service. I hope that made sense. This one, student service. Yeah, and you can name it. After that, it's going to be the same thing, the small s student service. Yeah, and we will also annotate with auto void, exact same thing for referencing it. Yeah, so we are done, and after this we'll be creating another function. So here the main root or the path for our post operation will be specified. So as I told you, right, this particular path needs a function. Okay, every path will have a function to its own. So I'll just come here. The function, as I told you, is going to be public. Okay, in most of the cases, public, and it's going to be of the type student. Okay, student as usual, the main entity, and it's going to be, I will have it as add details or post. Okay, post details. Okay, post details. That's going to be the name, and after that, this will take an argument. Okay, so this argument is going to be of type student. Okay, same student. Okay, same student everywhere, student, and the small s student. Okay, but we need to also add a particular annotation which is at request body. Okay, so the reason is because we will be sending data over here. Okay, we will be sending data from our postman. So where is that? This raw. Yeah, so we'll be sending a JSON data from our postman, and with the help of this request body, that particular data will be fetched by the student object. Okay, so once we are hitting that particular path, this particular data will be fetched by this particular function. Okay, so I will like add the path and it will make more sense after that. So in this function, we'll be having at post mapping. So to reference that, this particular function will handle the post operation in this class or controller. So we need that post mapping. So in general, we will be using post mapping for post operations. So this will take the path. So I will go with add student. Okay, so now I hope it will make more sense. So this add student will come over here. Okay, will come over here after this port number slash, that particular add student will be coming here. So when I send the data as a request, this particular data will be then caught by this particular request body of student. Okay, then this student will have basically these details. So I hope now it will be clear for you. So in this function, exact same thing, we have to return it. Okay, so it's going to be return, and we'll be using this service, student service. So it's going to be student service dot, and with the help of the student service variable, we will be accessing this particular function inside our student service. You know this function, right? Save details we created earlier. So with the help of this variable that we have created in our controller, we will be able to access this particular save details function. Okay, so it will be dot save details. Within that, we will be pass the student variable. Okay, so that's the code. So now let me explain you how this works in a simple term. Okay, so I'll just close these things. Only the main thing is going to be controller and the service. Okay, rest are just standard stuff. So I will go to my postman. So I'll just explain it in a demo way. After that, I will run and show you. So we'll be adding the local host, the student, the path. After that, we will like have a JSON data, and whenever we hit send, this particular path slash student will be hit. Okay, so after hitting that, it will come over here. This path will be like, it will check whether we are having this add student path. So this particular path that we have sent in postman matches with this path. So it will come over here, and we are having the request body annotation with the student object. Okay, so this data that we have sent over here will be now present inside the student variable, this variable, with the help of this request body annotation. So after this student variable will be having these values. It will come over here. Here you can see it's student service dot save details student. So basically we are passing all this data to the save details function, which is present inside our service. Okay, so now I will go to my service, this particular save details function. So I will go here. The save details function is also having a parameter of student. Okay, so now this student will be referenced to as this student over here. Okay, it's like function calls basically. So what happens is that this data will now come to the function save details present inside our service from the controller. So it's like that. It's from the postman data to our controller function, and from the controller function it goes to our service function, and in the service function we are just saving it with the help of dot save through our repo, like the repository variable that we have created earlier. So because of this dot save, it gets then saved in our MySql workbench or database table. So this is the entire workflow. Okay, so this is how it will work. So now let me just run and show you this program. Okay, just come to this Spring Pro application. That is the main file. If you aren't having this run thing, just right click it and you have to just click on run project. And if you aren't having this edit configurations, I will just open it. So yeah, this is my edit configuration. Here you need to specify the Java, the main thing, and here you need to specify the working directory. So these are the standard stuff, and I will just now close it. And now in my database, okay, so this is my database. I will go to tables. I'm having only my table, so I'm not having the table, any table named as student. So here in entity, right, we have specified the table name to be as student DB. So if this program runs successfully, we need to get the student DB automatically created over here, and after that we will be sending some data from our Postman. So I will just now run the code. I hope it works. Lot of effort into it, and I don't want to get any errors right now. So I will run it. So after some time, you will be getting some logs like this, and if you get this final thing as Spring application started, so which means that there aren't any errors. And here you can see, right, we will be getting some SQL commands over here as well. So here you can see, right, create table student DB. So if I just now go to my MySQL workbench, and if I just now refresh it, so here you can see that I will be having the student DB over here. So if I just now go to my select asterisk from, I will just run student, and I will go with underscore DB, and if I just now run it, we will be having 3 columns which is going to be of type ID, ST, mark, and name. So here you can see, right, where is that? Yeah, this particular name that I've specified over here will be directly coming to the column name, as simple as that. And another important thing you need to note here is that the port number on which your Spring Boot application is running. So if I just now come here, so here you can see, right, our Spring Boot has now started on port 8080. So this is like the default port. So now let's see what happens when we some post data from our Postman, because that's our aim over here. We need to save data. Currently our table is empty. So for that, this is the port, okay? So just copy this 8080. So this is like a default port. So I will just come to my Postman, and here we need to change this port to 8080. Okay, important thing. I will say you the important thing what we need to do. So it's going to be localhost :8080, and here we are going to do post data. So just click here the operation and change it to post. Really important thing, many people won't do that. And after that you need to come to body, and it will be none at default, I guess. Body none. You need to go to raw after that, and you need to have like this, okay, the format. I'm inserting here only name and mark values because my ID is auto-generated. As I told you, right, my ID value is auto-generated because of this generated value annotation. So that's the reason why I'm not referencing ID over here. I'm having only name and mark values sent as a request body. So you need to have raw, have name within double quotes, hello within double quotes, mark key within double quotes, and since 100 is of type int, no need double quotes to that. Okay, be careful there as well. After that, here also important thing, you need to have this type as JSON. Okay, you need to change this to JSON. I think it will be text by default. If you put text, it will give an error. So I have it as JSON, another important thing. And I think, yeah, that's it. These are the important things. Operation, and you need to change the path as well. So the path that we have specified in our controller, where is controller? Yeah, student controller. This particular path should come over here. You need to be careful with the cases as well. So I will just change it to some meaningful name. Okay, I will just put not meaningful, hello, hi, something like that, like this, and I will go with 1000 as the mark, some random thing. If I just now send it, so it's sending request. Yeah, so we have got the result over here. So we have got the result as a response because we are like returning it. Okay, here you can see that we have returned that particular thing, and we have got this thing. And if I just now go to my MySQL table and run it, so here you can see that I've got the value 1, which is auto generated. I'm not sending ID over here, and the name and mark are coming. And in case what if you want some other response, okay, you don't want the JSON to be appearing over here, you can just change it by going to your controller. You can just remove this return. You need to just change this as string because we'll be returning a string text. Okay, and I will come over here. I will just return something as posted. So this will work fine if you don't have any errors. Okay, I'm just doing it since I'm not having any errors. But in case of like company or a much more standard way, we should never do this one. Okay, never directly return a string or variable. Okay, I'm just showing it for demo purpose. So like just to know how this basically works, why we are adding the class name over here. So that's the reason why I'm doing this. So I'll just now rerun it. For rerunning it, just click this button. Okay, so it will restart again. Yeah, so here you can see that it's restarting. Yeah, so my application has now restarted. So I will go to my postman again, and this time we won't be getting the JSON over here. Rather than that, we will be getting this particular posted text appearing in our response area. So I will just now move this and I will just change it to world or something. I'll just put world, some random name, and I will give the mark as 111. And if I send it now, so here you can see that I'm getting that particular text over here. So that's the purpose. It's not necessary that you need to have that. And here you can see that this is how the insert operation works. Insert into student, the values like that. Yeah. So that's the SQL, like the query for what the operation that is being currently performed, the post operation. So if I just now go to my MySQL DB and run this command again, so we'll be having the value, the 111 and the world that I sent over here. So you can have a string over here, or you can just leave the normal way how it was earlier. The normal way is fine, I guess. So now we are done posting data. Let's focus on fetching all the data, because that is our aim in this video. So for that, I will just go to my IDE again and let me just close everything. Okay. So it's going to be so simple. Literally just we need to change in 2 files, and totally it's going to be like a 10 lines of code to fetch all the data after posting. So the first change what we need to make is in the service. Okay, just go to service folder and open student service, and in this we will be already having a service for posting data. Okay, save details. Through that only we were like able to post data in our table. So now we are going to have exact same service to fetch all the details present in our table. So for this, I'll just go to the next line. It's going to be public, and this time the return type of our function is going to be a list. It's going to be of type list, because when fetching all the data from our table, this first row is going to be a JSON data, and the second row is also going to be another JSON data. So as a whole, both the JSONs will be present inside a list. So whenever we are fetching all the data from a table, it is going to get written in a form of a list. So that in our function also we need to have list type and not only student type. So this list is also going to be of type student, because the objects of the students are ID, then mark and name. So that's going to be of the type student. Okay, so it's going to be student. Yeah, only that we need to add the list. Okay, you need to be careful there, and I will just name the function as get all details. Yeah, and here we won't be having any arguments, because we are just going to fetch data. Okay, we are not going to pass any data from our postman or anything. We're just going to fetch the data, so no need of any data body or request body over there. Just have a return statement, that's enough. So it's going to be return, and we will be using our student repo name. Yeah, exact same thing. It's going to be student repo, and here we will be using the find all function. So here you can see it, find all. So I'll just type find all. Yeah, hit enter. So now we are done with our service. Okay, this is fine, this is well and good. And the next thing where we need to change is in our controller. So I'll just go to my controller, student controller, and here we need to also do the exact same thing that we did for our post. We need to create another function, and we need to add get mapping. For posting data is going to be post mapping. For fetching or getting data is going to be get mapping. So I'll just be here. It's going to be public. The exact same thing. Here we are having student, but for our fetch or get all details, we add list of student. So here also we'll be using a list of student, since our data is stored getting received in a form of list from our database. I told you, I explained you earlier, right? These are two are going to be JSONs within a list. So we need to have list of student, and here we can name anything. It's going to be, I will name it as get details function, like that, and no request body, because we are just going to fetch the data. We are not going to like pass in an ID or some request. It's just raw fetching of the whole data. So this is enough. So it's going to be return, and here we'll be using the student service. Okay, the service, this one, the class name. Yeah, the object of the class student service, this one. So it's going to be return student service dot, and here we'll be calling the function in the service. Okay, this particular function. Okay, get all details. It's going to be dot get all details. It's so simple, guys. If you understand, for post, literally everything is the exact replica of the post operation. You need to like add minor changes here and there. If you are familiar with one operation, you can just basically replicate the exact same thing to all the other operations. So this is now fine, and we need to add our path. Okay, for post we had add student, right? So I'll just go to my postman. So here you can see that we are having add student. So here you can just do annotation, and it's going to be get mapping. Don't add their post. Okay, it's going to be get capital G get mapping, and we are going to have I'll put get student. Yeah, get student. Yeah. So this is fine. As I told you, just 10 lines. Here 4 lines in the controller and here another 3 lines in our service class. That's the code, guys. Simple. So I will just copy this path and you know to like restart your ID. Okay. You know, like rerun. You will be having the button over here, run project. Just click it. So it will basically like restart the application again. Yeah, my Spring Boot application has now started. So I will just go to my Postman now. So in the Postman, we need to do many changes. Okay, the first major change is the data. Okay, we will be having raw JSON. Just click it to none. Okay, we are not going to send any data. It's just going to be a pure fetch operation. And next one is in the operations, you need to change this to get. Okay, don't have it as post. Change it to get. And next one, we need to change the path. So here we have specified the path to be as get student. So I'll just go here and remove this and I will just put paste the path. Okay, it's going to be get student. Remove it. Yeah. So we will be basically getting the 2 rows. Okay, these 2 values will be coming as a response over here. Like now we are having a single JSON, right? We'll be having a list, and within that list we'll be having 2 JSON elements. This one row, this one row. Okay, like 2 objects. So this is it, guys. None, get, add the path that you have specified over there. Just send it. Yeah, so here you can see, right, as I told you, we are getting a list, and inside that list we'll be having 2 JSON. So here we are having the first JSON, and if I scroll down here we'll be having our second JSON, and this is enclosed in a list. So that's the reason why we need to add here list. Okay, I hope that made sense for you now. The final thing that we want to do is fetch data by using the ID. Okay, that is our aim in this video. So first thing, just close all the things. Okay, just close all the files that you have opened now. So currently we will be making changes only in 2 files. That's enough. Okay, we have done all the necessary changes for posting data. For fetching data, we need to just make 2 changes. Okay, so the files are going to be student controller and another one is going to be the service file. So we need to just add around like 10 lines of code in both the files, and that will do the job for us. So here we are having this post data. Okay, save details. So just come down, and here I am present in the service. Okay, at first. So here you will be creating exactly a same function related to this. So in my case, it's going to be public student, and let me name it as get student details by ID, something like that. And here we will pass the argument as int type. Okay, because we will be accessing data with the help of this ID. And another important thing is that you need to have a column named ID. Okay, you need to name it literally ID so that this particular function works. Otherwise it won't work, I guess. So literally name a column as a name as ID. Okay, be careful there. So it's going to be int ID and open curly bracket, and we'll be return the repository name, which is student repo. Yeah, student repo dot, and here you will be having find by ID. Just hit enter, and inside that you need to pass your integer ID. Okay, and after that you need to just have a or else condition. Okay, what if that particular ID is not present in our table? Okay, if I go with 10 ID as 10, no data is present, right? So we need to also have a else condition for that. So for that, just click it dot or else and just give here null. That's it. So now we won't be getting any errors. So this is absolutely fine. So now we are done with our changes in the service file. So as I told you, the next change is going to be in the controller. So I'll just go to my controller. Exact same thing. Just come down, have a function. So it's going to be public student. So why we are having the return type as student is because once we are like fetching data with the help of ID, we will be returning this particular row itself. So let's suppose say that I want to fetch the ID of 1. So this particular row will be getting returned. So this is an object of type student. Okay, ID, student mark, and name are variables of the object student. So that's the reason why we are returning student over here. So return type is student. Okay, I hope that made sense. Student, and let me name it as fetch details by ID. Yeah, you can have any name over here, and I will just open curly bracket, and as I told you, this is going to be return student service. So this one, so this particular variable that we have used. So because our function is present in the student service class, so we need to access this particular function only with the help of a object of the student service class. So this is that object. Okay, student service dot, and here we will be having get students details by ID. Okay, so this is fine. We need to pass here ID.
So now a question will come to you, from where we will be passing this ID, because here you can see, right, whenever we save data, we didn't have, like, we passed student over here, so that student came from here. So the student like came from the request body. By request body I meant this one. So already we know, right, it came from this body. Okay, it came from this body type. That's what request body means. But here we are not going to send any request body. This is going to be of none. Okay, we are not going to pass any JSON or something like that. It's just going to be a pure get function without even passing any data. So from where we will be getting this ID? So the thing is that we will be passing ID in our URI. Okay, so this is how it's going to work. So let me just add a get mapping. So for posting data, it is called as post mapping. All right, so post mapping, and for getting data, it's going to be at get mapping. Okay, so capital G. Yeah. So it's going to be get mapping, and here, similar to post mapping, we'll be specifying a path. So I'll just copy this and I'll paste it. So it's going to be get student by ID, and after that just put a slash and curly bracket, and within that we need to pass ID. We just pass the variable ID. Okay, and after that inside this, okay, inside this particular function's parameters, just put at use path variable. After that just type int of ID. That's it. So now let me explain you how this is going to work. So in the save we had request body. So what request body did is that it basically fetched all the data coming from Postman's body. So we had raw and we had this JSON. Okay, we had this JSON value for posting. So that particular value was fetched by this request body. So what path variable does is that, so here we are having get student by ID, right? Let me just copy this entire thing. I just copy this and I'm going to Postman and I'm just going to paste this over here. So rather than having this ID, I will give a real number. So I will just give it as 5. So what happens is that whenever I hit on this, whenever I click on send, this particular path variable will fetch this ID value. Okay, so this 5 will be fetched by this path variable. So this ID is nothing but 5. Just imagine ID equals 5 there. So path variable is int ID. So 5 will be over here. And this ID value will be passed to over here. So get student details by ID of 5. And it goes over here. Int ID, this ID is 5. Student reported find by ID 5. So it goes over here to our table 5. It fetches this 5 123 high will be sent back, and this is a of type object. Okay, object of type student. Okay, so that will be sent back again, return. It will be returned over here, and that return will be coming over here, and after being returned from this particular main controller function, it will be getting displayed in our Postman. So this is basically how it works. The variable that you're passing after this path gets stored in this ID. That's why we need to specify this ID within curly brackets. If you specify within normal like this term, it will throw up error. It won't get stored in your variable ID. So you need to have this within curly brackets. So that's what it basically does, and that's it. It basically fetches the variable value from your URI. That's it. This 5 will be accessed through this ID, and you need to use this path variable annotation, similar to request body, but the purposes are different. So this is the code, guys. As I told you, like 4 lines over here and 3 lines, 7 lines. I told 10 lines actually. So just 7 lines. So just copy this path. Okay, you need to just copy this path, and you need to now go to Postman and paste it. So you need to have get student. This exact same path should be coming here after localhost and your port number. And another important thing is you need to have it as get. Okay, if you are having post, change it to get, and you need to send nothing. Just don't send any data. Okay, go to body and it should be none. Don't send it raw or JSON, just body and none. And you need to just first again run your project. Okay, just give stop and rerun. Yeah, so it'll get started again. So here you can see, right, Spring Boot application has started, which means that there aren't any errors. So that's it. So I will just go to my Postman and get student by ID. So I will just give it as 5. We will be getting this 5 123 high as a response in our Postman. So if I just click on sending request, and here you can see that we'll be getting this ID, name and mark. Only that particular row, okay, row with that particular ID will be fetched. So I will go with some other value. Let me go with 2 this time. So this time I will go with 2, and we'll be getting this second row, hopefully. Yeah,
we are getting the second row, which makes sense. And if I go with some random number 20, so this time I won't be getting anything in the output. Yeah, totally blank, because we have written null over here. So where is that thing? Yeah. So or else we have just written null, and using that use case in your front end or something like that, you could map a condition. If that particular response is null, you could say that ID is invalid or not present in the table. So this is how it works, guys. And here you can see the SQL commands, where just a where clause where that particular ID equal to that number. So this is how you fetch data by using an ID in MySQL using Spring Boot and Postman. So I hope you would have found this video useful. I've also done many other tutorials in Spring Boot and Postman MySQL. Check the playlist of my channel. As well, I have done tutorials in C, C++, Java, Python, Node.js, MySQL, MongoDB, CRUD operations, Figma. So check the playlist, subscribe me. Thanks for watching.